Okay, so let's get started. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who's joining us from different parts of the world today. I'm Maya Lawrence. I'm part of the product marketing team at Sober Banking Software. And this is a really special webinar for us today. It's the first one that we have with Fidor Solutions as part of SBS. SBS acquired Fidor at the end of 2020. So we're excited to welcome two experts, Dr. Michael Mayer and Yusuf Kuhn, to discuss trends in digital banking, more specifically what European banking can learn from Africa. But before we get started, I just want to mention that you're welcome to type in questions in the questions tab, which is on the right of your screen. And if you have questions, please make sure you put them there rather than in the chat. And please also be aware that we're going to be doing a couple of surveys throughout the webinar, so you'll be able to answer the questions that we pose, and you'll be able to do that on the right side of your screen as well. So Michael and Yusuf, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yes, please. Yes, Maya, thank you very much. Hello, everyone. So I'm Yusuf Kuhn. I am currently in Casablanca, Morocco. And I am the digital champion for Sopra Banking software in Middle East and Africa. And I'm very pleased to have this webinar with Michael and Maya to exchange about what Africa can provide to Europe and how Europe can learn from Africa about some interesting use cases that we are going to share with you today. So, Michael.
Yeah, good morning, bonjour. Guten Tag, grüß Gott, whatever you want to see in the world. So we have gorgeous weather in Munich as well. First time maybe this time. I'm very honored to have this great opportunity to speak to you. And I'm the co-founder of Fidor Solutions and currently the CEO. And I'm very much looking forward now to our interaction with the Honorable Yusuf, a digital champion, which I highly regard in everything. And thanks for the opportunity. We are happy to be part of the Sopra family now. It's only 11 weeks, so don't expect too much, but we will do our best.
So I think, Maya, we can continue.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry about that. I had a little problem with my mute button. Great, so let's go ahead and get started. I think the first thing that we're going to do is launch our first poll. And the question we're going to ask you today is, do you know what mobile money is? So yes, no, or maybe. And if you can submit your vote and go ahead and put that into the poll section on the right-hand side, and we'll be able to get your answer in a few minutes. So I'm just going to go through quickly the agenda for today. Another reminder to take the survey and also add the questions to the questions part of your screen on the right-hand side. You can also like questions that you like, and we'll do a Q&A at the end, and we'll get back to your answers to those questions. If for some reason we don't get back to you today during the Q&A, then we'll make sure we get back to you via email. So our speakers you already know. And the agenda for today. So we have our survey, which is already ongoing. Then we're going to talk about what Europe can learn from Africa. Our first trend is mobile money and wallets, and our second is nano credit, microcredit, and loans. Then we're going to do a little bit on what Africa can learn from Europe. We'll have our Q&A, and then we'll talk about the key takeaways. So, Yusuf, do you want to tell us a little bit about mobile money in Africa?
Yes, Maya. So I saw in the poll that more than 70% of the attendees know what is mobile money, and so I will explain it for the other 25%. I will say globally, the mobile money is in fact a kind of electronic money. So it's used to transfer electronically via mobile networks and SIM-enabled device. And primarily it was used with the mobile phones. I would say not smartphones, but mobile phones. And in fact, mobile money is a money that we put it on a mobile. It's different from the wallet where we have a card behind the wallet. And particularly in Africa, the mobile money has really accelerated since 2007, and particularly with the great experience in Kenya with the M-Pesa product, which is a a product provided by Safaricom, and Safaricom is in fact not a bank initially, but a telco company who has tried to reply to a customer needs, which is how I can send money to someone from a village to another village, from a city to another city, without using banks, because there the banks were not so spread too much in the country. And so, if you can move to the next slide to give you an overview about the mobile money. Today, the mobile money all over the world is more than 1 billion mobile money accounts. But in this 1 billion mobile money accounts, 50% of them are in Africa. And since 2017, it has grown very, very fastly, particularly in Eastern Africa, but also in West Africa. And now it's also coming in North Africa, particularly in Morocco and Tunisia. And in 2019, there is more than, let's say, 700 billion transaction value in US dollars. And on this transaction value, 65% of the transactions are done in Africa. So it's to give you an idea about the importance of this mobile money in Africa, and it's now used as a part of the financial inclusion that is accelerating very, very fast in Africa. And as I said, it's initially started with the mobile money. What does it mean? It's on the mobile, using not just any mobile app, but really using technology coming from SIM, meaning like technology like USSD, for example. And it was really simple to use. Even if people have a low literacy rate, they were able to use it just by duplicating figures on their phone. This is the first part. So what can I do with the mobile money today? I can do cash in, cash out, meaning that I can put my cash and I have a large network. And as we can see on the figures, the current number of mobile money agent, meaning the different point of sales when I can do transaction, is 77 times more than ATMs in Africa, and 20 times more than even bank branches in Africa. So it means that the number of point of sale when I can do transaction all over the continent is very, very important, and we are using partners in order to do those transactions. So I can do cash in, cash out. I can do peer-to-peer transaction between people to do money transfer. I can do also what we can call airtime, meaning that I can pop up my telco account in order to add voice or data. I can also do merchant payments. So today with Orange, for example, in West Africa, I can pay in Carrefour. I can pay directly with my mobile money just by scanning the QR code or just by putting the right account of the cashier. I can do also bill payment. So there is a lot. So as you can see, 44% of the transaction are linked to payment of the utilities. So if you want to pay your electricity, if you want to pay your bills, you use the mobile money. It's very, very efficient. And finally, and this is the new thing that you can see in Africa, but all over the world, is the international remittance. So if you look to all these, let's say, features provided by mobile money, what you need to take in your mind is that with mobile money, it's accelerated very, very fastly in Africa, and it's helped the financial inclusion. So maybe this is the main difference. And Michael, in Europe with the wallet, do you have the same situation?
Well, Yusuf, thanks for the great explanations, and I think I'm deeply impressed about the African performance. And well, I'm looking loud now. I need to a little bit defend the European banking sector, but I'm trying to explain a little bit, because a wallet is basically what a client defines. And let me go back to whatever 1996, and there was a famous guy, Charles Schwab, in the US, who founded those days online brokerage, and he had a famous speech, and he said always, "Get the assets, and the rest will follow." And looking to you, what you did in Africa, I would rephrase that a little bit and say, get the transaction and it will follow. And actually, you know, when you see that, obviously the banks in Europe, I mean, everything is centered around bank accounts. It's not a wallet, it's not a mobile wallet. Well, we have a very functional, good working banking sector. You have a very good cash availability, of course, in that things. So people in Europe, and especially in Germany, to be very precise, are used to pay a lot with cash and rely on the bank account. They have the bank card with them, and this is a completely learned behavior what they have. And therefore, they regard still their wallet as their wallet where they have their coins in or their paper money. They regard the money maybe as a credit card. This is already advanced. But the new story is, as you all know, if the innovation is only centered around bank accounts, you will miss something. And when we look to Europe right now, what is happening? I mean, actually, you know, PSD2, a lot of experts here in the panel and in the audience, I guess, this is changing the game completely, because simply you don't need to have a bank license if you want to have a banking offer in there. You have access to the account. You can initiate payments from third parties and all these kind of things. But especially what I would say, the entrance of the GAFAs, especially with Apple Pay and the XPay, this is already pushing a lot. And what is the use case? Everybody in Europe has a smartphone. So it's cool to pay with Apple Pay. It's cool to pay with Google Pay. It's cool to pay with Samsung Pay. So, and this means a wallet, and the thinking and the mindset of the end client in Europe is changing a lot already. And that is looking a little bit into the direction of Apensa, isn't it, Yusuf? Saying, okay, the mobile is in the center and not the bank account and not the branch anymore, and not maybe the cashier, and not that you have to walk into a bank. And this is changing dramatically out of my view, which then of course enables exactly this wallet thinking. And don't forget about COVID. I want to hear your view about COVID, because I have a special one here in Europe.
Yeah, and in fact, it's interesting when there is, if you look to a lot of advisement that when we said you have your bank in your pocket, this is the one we can see a lot. But here, frankly speaking, in Africa, it's not the bank that we have in the pocket, it's our money that we have in the pocket. And the mobile money is just a way to have our money in the pocket. And you talk about to go to the branch. So in fact, I have a nice experience in Bamako, in Mali, when in fact people were doing the lineup in front of a guy under an umbrella. And I asked the guy what they are waiting for. They said they are just doing the lineup to do a transaction, to send money from Bamako to their village, where someone else in the village is also under the umbrella, waiting for the SMS saying, okay, can you give the money to this guy or to this guy or to this guy? So the banks were not able to reply to a customer need, which is, I have my money, I don't want to have it cash because it's difficult to to transfer cash to cash from a village to a village, so I want something else. And in fact, the telco companies have found a solution, and in Africa, even with the COVID, it was accelerated using, in fact, the digital approach. So I can send money to someone, but instead to do a cash out, so to go in to contact someone or to go to any point of sale, I can pay with my mobile money. So in the 2020, the number of transactions, the digital transaction with the mobile money has reached more than 50% of the transaction all over the value transaction that we saw before. And this is what is quite interesting. And in fact, I think in Europe, we cannot go anymore to the branch, but we need to do some fast transaction. And I know in Europe that there is instant payment, but in fact, with mobile money, it's already instant payment because I can do transaction in few seconds, only sending an SMS. So this is, I think, what in Europe it can be interesting to see how it's so easy to send money, not only by connecting to my mobile app, but only by sending an SMS or sending a WhatsApp. So this is, I think, what Europe should move to the next stage to make it more easy to do the transaction. So in fact, yeah, it can be more customer-centric.
I completely agree with you. We already can learn from Africa is the simplicity to really concentrate on the customer needs and wants. and to be creative on that and fulfill, they have a problem and they solve the problem. And the banks are institutions. It's changing a little bit already. They're aware of that they'll start losing the transaction. But what we definitely can learn is customer-centric thinking. Absolutely, fully agree on that, Yusuf.
And
back to you, Matt.
And to continue about the fact to be customer-centric. So when in Africa we have now a lot of mobile money, so more than 500 million mobile money, there is a simple question about interoperability of all those mobile money and interoperability between mobile money and banking accounts. So in many regions in Africa, there is new regulations in order to make interoperability projects, in order to let mobile money do transaction with other mobile money. So it's always with the benefit to the customer. So it's become the more and more customer centric, but also to allow people from their banking account to send money to any mobile money. And I have also another story about that. I was with a customer a few days ago, and he told me, I have a big corporate that receive payments only via mobile money. It means that when they are when they receive the goods, in order to pay, they pay only with mobile money. So we can send more than 1,000 or even 2,000 euros by mobile money. And he said, my customer want to have the same experience with his mobile money, meaning that he want to receive on his banking account the money in real time, to be notified that the money arrived, then he can give the goods. So the business is changing, and in fact, we have become the more and more customer centric in order to reply to all the business needs that we can find on the market. So I think, Maya, we can move to the next stage,
yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the next trend. Just before we do, though, I want to let everyone know that we launched another survey in the poll section. So if you go to the right part of your screen, you'll be able to see the question. So if you can answer that, that would be great. So our next trend is nano credit and microcredit in Africa. So Yusuf, do you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on with that in your region?
Yeah, so when we talk about mobile money, we said it started in 2007, but microfinance generally started in the 70s, initially in Asia, where microfinance was a tool to help people to start on their business, to help people to exit from the poverty. So initially, this product was thinking to finance the economy. And from this part, so if you can move to the next slide, from this part, the business had a little bit changed, because initially the main idea was how we help community, but with the mobile money, things have changed, because mobile money enabled the digital microcredit, and we had as Sopra Banking a great experience in Kenya with one of our customers, when in fact as a use case is quite simple, is a taxi man that would like in the morning to have some cash to put gas in his car. So he takes his phone, he has his mobile app saying that he can borrow, let's say $10 in order to put gas on his car. So he can take he can borrow the $10 in few seconds, go to the gas station, pay with his mobile money $5 or $10 for the gas, and then do his job. By the end of the day, he has two options. He can pay back his nano credit during the day, so he pay few fees, or he can decide to pay it the next day, or by the end of the week, or by the end of the month. He's very flexible in his managing his way of repaying his loan. And this is really what is happening in Africa. This is the first thing, is I want to start my journey. I need some money. I'm not saying cash, I really need just some money. And then I do my business and I pay back by the end of the day. This is the first example. And the second one was about, in fact, M-Pensa, who they launched a service which is called Fulitza. And in fact, it's kind of overdraft. So you subscribe via your mobile phone about to have a kind of limit, a new limit on your mobile money. And when you come to pay and you don't have enough money, you receive an SMS saying, okay, you can activate your Fulitza account. And by just activating your Fulitza account, you can propose a service of frictionless payments. So this is another use cases. And what is very interesting is that when I saw what's happening in the COVID in Europe, when it comes to loans in Europe, it's generally for people that have stability, that are accepted by the banks. But in fact, the microcredit or nano credit was thinking about people that are not banked or underbanked. So today, when we hear in Europe that people are they don't have job, that people have or they're working part-time, so it means that there is a lot of instability about this segment of population, and what they need. Sometimes they need just 100 euro, 200 euro to avoid to be on overdraft. So this is something I think, Michael, that can be very interesting also for Europe to rethink about loans and to make this microcredit a new opportunity to help a lot of people in Europe to restart or to continue in their current life, even with the crisis.
Fully agree on that, Yusuf, as well. And then thanks for these great explanations. It's the same thing, you know. When you go to Europe, when a loan is starting, come from the end client. Usually, you have to go to a branch and ask for a loan because whatever, you know, your fridge broke down, you have a car accident, you need a new car, you need a new TV set, all these kind of things. You go there. Next step, which is even a little bit modern, is all these price comparison platforms where you have different offers there, but you do the initiation and there is a moment in time. The only thing where I would say it's a little bit of learning already in Europe is when loans are granted at the point of sale. So like in furniture stores, you know, when you're there, you can finance these things. You have interesting card concepts as well over, and you can, of course, try to grant loans instantly. However, we have the same kind of problem in Europe with small loans, because small loans are, again, centered around bank accounts. Bank accounts means it's usually expensive. If you have the full scoring process on such a product from end to end, from origination to granting to collection and all these kind of things, you would be very, very impressed what the average cost of a loan is. And right now, maybe a figure I can share in Germany, the average figure for an installment loan in Germany is 7,000 euros. This is, and with that, actually, most likely, and a duration on 36 months, a loan might be profitable. Looking to COVID right now, the game changes again a lot, you know, and let me answer for the Europeans with the US bank, Cross River. They paid out with the PPP program, which is a loan which has been granted on very short notices in really very short period of time, 6.5 billion dollars, sorry. And this is exactly, even banks can do it if they want to do it. However, we are hindered by the costs right now. We have manual decisions in between, which are important for risk awareness, for having the profits out there. But a microloan below 100 euro is very, very difficult to achieve for profitability. And that's actually where you need to be creative. And we had in 2009, 2010, 2011, maybe the guys in my age and Vladimir, who's on the panel, who knows those guys, SOPA in the UK, peer-to-peer lending, Smava, peer-to-peer lending. Those was already initiatives, but with higher loans, of course. But I guess these are the things what we need to learn in the future, because what you say, we will have a different customer behavior. Maybe you need some money, you know, just 15 euros to pay the round at the bar or something like that. Maybe it's just, you know, to bridge the last 50 euros at the end of the month because you need whatever, some apples or something like that, or you need to pay rental stuff. And those are the things I think where we need to reconsider how can we improve the process. And what you said, you're combining smart thinking, you know, more data, trust from peers, from friends, which is very important. A loan is always about trust. And if you can combine that thinking and if you can combine that learning, then we will also see something in Europe. And I guess you already have some examples yourself, don't you?
Yeah, in fact, 2 weeks ago, I was looking to a French documentary on the French TV, and I saw that there is a new fintech in France, which is called the FinFrog, that is redesigning the microcredit and explaining that it's more easy to get a microcredit than to get an overdraft. And they compare cost. If you go overdraft with your bank, you have multiple stress. Stress about the fees, you pay around 40 euros because you are overdraft. Each transaction, you are stressed because you can have a phone call from the bank, you can receive letters, and you have the risk to be blacklisted by the central bank. So all this stress is solved by the fact to take a microcredit between not zero, but 10 euros to 600 euros. And in fact, they use a lot the pre-scoring, they use a lot the data coming from outside the company in order to provide a new service. And it is presented not as a problem of poverty or an issue of people that are rejected by banks. So they are targeting customers that have banking accounts, but as you said, they have an issue to finalize the end of their month. And this is quite interesting. And if you look to this target and this population, in fact, you talk about trust. If you help them now, they will think about you after, when they will have a fixed salary. So you can build another relationship with them. And I think in Europe, particularly with the COVID impact, it can be something very interesting to deploy and to adapt to Europe. And as you say, to reduce the cost to originate this kind of loans.
Yusuf, I have a question for you. Actually, we launched our poll, which asked the question: in Europe, microcredit loans are usually either a few hundred euros, less than 100 euros, over 10,000 euros, and most people said a few hundred euros. So, are you aligned with their thinking? And can you explain a little bit why it's a few hundred euros rather than just those smaller amounts of less than 100 or larger amounts that are over 10,000?
In fact, as Michael said, it's based on the needs. This microcredit is not to buy something, is not to buy a TV. It's not for just to buy things. It's by the end of the month, you need maybe between 100 up to 500 euros to complete your end of month. So that's why, regarding the pool, I will say that more than 90% of the people saying that is between few hundred and less than 100. It's true. But when it comes, it's not over 10,000 euros, because we don't do microcredit for 10,000 euros. And now it's in this case is a loan, as Michael said. And so I think this is the two use cases. And as you put in the slides, the main idea, I have my money in my pocket. This is the first thing. The second thing, if I need more money, how I can get more money using very simple tools, very simple processes. So in fact, it's to adapt anytime, anywhere our approach. And this is very, very interesting for Europe. So when I will open my mobile app, my French, German mobile app, we can do, as we can see also in China, I can have my limit and the amount that I can borrow in few seconds, and said, okay, I need this money in few seconds, but I'm talking about small amounts. And then I can manage my repayment schedule very, very easily. I can pay the same day, during the week, I can change the amount. So the flexibility is like with friends. So I can borrow money from friends and said, okay, I will repay back in 2 weeks, etc., etc. So this is the first thing. And the second concept, I don't know, Michael, if you know about the tontine. The concept of tontine in Africa is very well spread. So I don't know if you know more about it.
You are the expert, of course, Yusuf.
So the concept of tontine is like the crowdfunding aspect, and it's very old process. But the crowdfunding is between people that they don't know themselves. So this is about the crowdfunding. But about the tontine is a group of 10 people that they create a small group and they start to borrow money between them. And today, with the digital, it's very interesting to find that banks, financial institutions proposed solutions just to manage this kind of tontine and to be able to do transaction between peer-to-peer and to follow up all the installment repayment. So this is very, very also interesting, particularly in Europe, where people can help each other by the end of the month.
Yeah, I fully agree on that, Yusuf. And you might recall that Matthias, the founder and CEO of Fido Bank, he was very much into crowdfunding, crowd investing, and all these things. And maybe we've been too early those days, But of course, it was also a little bit bounded by regulation. And with these COVID things, I think even regulators are start thinking differently now. Because with COVID in Europe and all the debts, the states and the governments are right now taking on their shoulders, you may need alternatives, you may need the crowd, you need the wisdom of the crowd, definitely to overcome that. And this thinking we must put into our products, into technology. Technology, as you know, it needs to create value. It's not just for technology being technology, but it needs to create value for the enterprise, supported by the regulation.
So I think we have today two use cases, mobile money and microcredit. So we know that globally, all over the world, so there is no banks. So I think, Maya, you have asked a question on the pool. So we can move to the next trend.
Yes, and if you guys haven't seen that, go ahead and click on polls on the right side of your screen. You can answer the question that we've asked about neobanks, which is how many neobanks exist worldwide? 10,000, 1,000, 250, or 100. So if you can add your answer there, that would be great. And then you will be able to see if you're correct once we start talking about neobanks. So I think the question is, what can Africa learn from Europe? So now we're going to talk about neobanks from that perspective. What kinds of tips or interesting trends are going on in Europe with neobanks that can be useful for Africa?
First of all, I have to learn a lot regarding the nice view Yusuf has in Casablanca, of course, having the sea in front of him, shiny, sunny. So we can learn a lot of lifestyle on that. What can Africa learn from Europe? Yeah, in banking? Well, if you now would say, and I would just use the buzzwords now, platform as a service, payment as a service, software as a service, banking as a service. All these kind of things are what we think is the innovation by heart, and it's coming from Europe or from the US. And when you see to that, yes, we have 250 neobanks worldwide. What is a neobank? It's, I have a very close definition, and I would even differentiate it from a challenger bank. A neobank is somebody who has no own banking license, but is under the roof of another banking license, like Solaris did it, like Cross River is doing it, like Bankable, all other countries are using a very light license, a PSD2 license to enable banking services. Also, a lot of companies are in there. However, if you're going to see all these kind of different platforms, I'm listening to you closely, and M-Pesa, Yusuf, is M-Pesa not a neobank? What can M-Pesa learn? What can we share with that? I think it's a non-bank, it's a mobile network operator, a large one who's used the network for payments, for transactions. Again, come to the original point, get the transaction and the rest will follow. Now financing, building up tight networks, maybe there will be saving in the future and stuff like that. So it is a growing market, and the neobanks will definitely attack the older banks, simply because they will concentrate on the value to the client or their value proposition, because they have a bank in the back which absolutely can cover the needs and wants or the enablement. So they don't need to take care about IT, compliance, software, and stuff like that. Solaris has a picture-perfect standard software frame and a client's frame. If you fit in, you can do all the kind of things, and you can concentrate on one thing, which is the client. What I learned today, Africa is always concentrating on the client because you need to overcome the problems. But again, I think if you want to get a neobank and also to Africa, then there is definitely some things. You know, what is there? Minus 11 euros, which is lost per neobank per account. This is nothing which is sustainable in the future. I know figures which are even worse. I hardly know a neobank which is really profitable right now. But if you look to other tips and tricks, and I think that's the other slide, you need to check it in the other direction. Maya, maybe you can switch it on that. Then the tips and trips is really focus on the client, get the customer in front of it, and be very, very flexible. And you remember maybe the Lehman collapse those days. And that was basically the birth of the Challenger and the neobanks, because there was a huge campaign out there that people didn't trust the banks anymore. You lost everything. And by that, actually, you know, we those days established a kind of a community. And a community is something, I guess, which is a customer engagement tool, which you cannot underestimate, because it's exactly hitting the spot right now. You share in between opinions between clients. You know, all my kids are sharing on Insta, on Facebook, on wherever, you know, TikTok is sharing, everything is sharing. So why not exchanging tips and tricks on financial things? For us as bankers, or for us as software engineers and providing cool banking products to banks, from bankers to banks, this is also the perfect platform to see what client wants. It's a product innovation lab, because you get ideas. You just need to listen. And where else you can enable such a direct contact in a community between an end client and a banker, or in between clients. And I think this is also kind of a little bit African. You know, people are talking to each other, they trust each other, they're communicating with each other. So I think this is something we may focus a little bit in Africa on, establishing communities there as an engagement tool and taking out all the ideas for there, because Africa by heart is customer centric.
And I think, Michael, it's quite interesting because when you talk about community, because Africa is a lot of communities, is a lot of languages and dialects. So in fact, with the community, it's a very interesting approach. And my question to you is, you said that there is 250 neobanks, which is still not a lot of banks all over the world. So we imagine that in the future, there will be more and more neobanks. So, you know, in Africa, we always jump sometimes some gaps because we don't like to reproduce what has been done in other countries. So with your experience of neobank, what will be your recommendation or things to avoid or not to duplicate that has been done in Europe and we can avoid in Africa?
Well, of course, by heart, I'm an agile person, and this is what I learned in due course of my technology career, is being agile. And this means you need to be brave. You need to try out things, but you also need to be brave to stop things. If you realize they're not working, stop them. There needs a lot of braveness in there. But on the other hand, you know, never stop thinking, never stop refining, never stop reshaping. I guess this is a continuous story. What we sometimes forget, this is not a sprint, a 100-meter sprint. It's a marathon. It's an Ironman Cup what we are undergoing, and an Ironman athlete is starting the training the next day again for the next Ironman Cup. And this is how we need to treat it. It's not a project with an end date. You know, it's not that we have a release and that's it, and then we go back for sleeping. No, this is not the thing. And I think this is the most important thing, that you have to culture the people always to keep moving, to keep pushing, keep customer centric. To avoid absolutely is also, well, also customer centricity has limitations. So you need to create some money, you know. We don't work just because we have blue eyes or whatever. We need basically some returns and profitable growth in that, also to spread and give the money back and keep at the innovation front of that. And I guess with that, Youssef, I mean, M-Pesa is a very good example. 2007 around, following that very closely. And if you look to that and also other things, they even start now destroying their own business a little bit and trying to figure out what are new ways of better value for the client. And this would be my my hints for the people who want to set up a neobank: focus on it, get a clear value proposition, MVP thinking, and stay flexible, as everybody needs to be in those days.
And thank you, Michael. And I think we had 2 years ago a great experience between Fidor and Sopra Banking in Algeria, where we had this great opportunity to create the first neobank in Algeria. And what you talk about agility, and what I find great in this experience, that we were able to manage the last mile issue. So when we do neobanks, we don't have necessary branches, we don't have point of sales, we don't have partners. But regarding the regulation in Algeria, you need to still sign documents. So I found quite interesting to use companies like the equivalent of Uber to do the last mile transaction in order to sign documents, to deliver cash, or to collect cash. So it's how this idea come to the team in order to solve this issue of signing documents instead to use the electronic signature, things like that.
Well, actually, it was a team idea, as always. When you have an agile team around, then you discuss ideas and you come up with that. And actually, already those days, and it's a good proof that Sopra and Fido those days already closely worked together. So the marriage was only a logical step, maybe one moment. The thing is, we had those Uber types of things, and we already had APIs. And what people are expecting is not a comparison bank between bank. Yes, they make a ranking. Okay, this bank is better than the other. But as you said, they expect services from other sectors. If you have a delivery of a WhatsApp instantly in the US, you want to have the money there as well. It's exactly what you said. It's instant. It's not only instant payment, it's instant expectations, instant delivery, everything like that. So why not leveraging, and this is a collaboration thing across sectors. And if you want to integrate APIs and you have a digital engagement platform in the middle where you connect easily other services, why you shall not make an appointment to deliver for a signing of a bank account opening or something like that? Or making an appointment, what we did with Adib in the UAE, for delivering your card into the home. It's service, and technically it's not a big issue anymore. But this is what we said, it's too much centered around bank accounts. If you go to the middle layer, technically speaking, sorry for me, then actually, you can also do other things, fintech integrations, but also other lifestyle implementations, which we don't need to necessarily have in the core banking. I don't need this appointment in the core banking system. This is not a relevant information. I only need the image back that the bank account is signed. So we thought cross-sectoral, and that was a quite successful approach, I guess. And this is the thinking, I guess, also came not from Europe, it came from Africa.
Okay. Thank you. I hope that people that are hearing us, particularly the one who want to do business in Africa, they can contact us to, let's say, know more about our approach, how we can launch a neobank in Europe, in fact, but also now we would like to help banks to launch neobanks in Africa. So maybe, Maya, we can take some questions.
Absolutely. We have a couple of them already. So I'll just go ahead and read those out to you guys. So the first question that we have is, when you talk about instant payment in Africa via wallets, it's not cross-border, right? Only within one country, while SEPA is pan-European.
In fact, in Africa, there is some regions that are like SEPA regions. For example, what we call in West Africa, the UEMOA zone, or in Central Africa, the CEMAC zone. They have the same currency. They are managed by the same central bank. So the interoperability between mobile money, not wallets, it's starting inside the country, but with the idea to have at least this interoperability between banks and telco operators all over the same region. So it will be not as SEPA pan-European, but I will say UEMOA, they will have their own approach. CEMAC, they will have their own approach. And I think by the future, it will be considered as international remittance. And I'm sure that we will find some new approaches. And we had a great experience that we are testing right now with some African banks, is how to leverage the open banking in Europe, because with the PSD2, we are able to, based on the customer consentment, we are able to connect and to get access to their European account and initiate payment. So using the open banking, and as Michael said, using the APIs, I think that you are able to think about something more large than just payments in one country. This is the first thing. And also to reply to Germain, there is today some fintechs that propose this regional interoperability. So they do the job instead of the regulation. So this is why in Africa, fintechs are sometimes faster than the regulation, and it's a good thing. And you have today some fintechs that propose that even if you are in Orange Mali, Orange Côte d'Ivoire, or Orange Senegal, or whatever other operators, you can have the same hub in order to do payments. So, and for the technology used is exactly the same that the instant payment that is used in Europe.
Okay, thank you, Youssef. So maybe we can go to the second question. So that question is, if I've understood well, the focus seems to be really on payment, money transfers, and B2C. But banks have already highly disintermediated on payment in Europe. For example, Stripe, Circle, Ripple, Mint. What about B2B, in particular, small business banking?
That's a very good question. But actually, this is, the disintermediation is exactly what happens. The banks are starting to losing their transaction. However, I think it's regardless if you need the payment for a B2C or a small enterprise or a corporation. The large corporations, they use SWIFT, and this is anyhow already real time, and it's global. SWIFT's problem is it's expensive. But on the other hand, if you look for initiatives like the EPI, so the European Payment Initiative, where all the big banks are supporting right now, and which is centered around instant payments, Target 2, RT1, and stuff like that. And if that comes really to life and they will connect it with POS services and card services and stuff like that, then you will have a network in Europe, which is actually then based on bank accounts, but highly efficient, because as you know, the instant SEPA charges are much lower than, for instance, an interchange with a credit card or with a debit card. So coming to that point, actually, well, maybe the baseline banking services like payments and stuff like that, you need to go anyhow in one direction to bring down the TOC, the target operating costs. This is the thing what you need to do. And the SMEs are, for most banks, as with a microloan, like Youssef explained, for Europeans, too expensive. The critical mass is not there, but I'm pretty sure that those standardizations and big organizations and big initiatives will lead to a better target operating model and to lower target operating costs, total operating costs, and then you can serve the SMEs better. Or the other way around, there are already like Hovi in Germany, which are specialized on SME services, who try to really capture those things and create value there and skim the market there, which is also a nice and a good approach. But we are only at the beginning there. So SME is the next following thing, of course, I'm pretty sure.
And to complete on that, Michael, if I take in Africa, there is currently a lot of initiative in order to, when we talk about SMEs, those companies are in part of an ecosystem, and they have also some needs. They have interaction with their customers. They need to do transactions, and in fact, today some initiative in Africa is to try to understand how the ecosystem is working and to provide offers for the ecosystem. For example, I'm going outside, I'm going to the shop, I need to pay. Okay, this shop need to have a POS machine. The POS machine costs $200, so he doesn't have $200 to pay this POS machine. He doesn't want to pay any fees because he's receiving money. So the idea has to be changed. So if you consider these SMEs as part of an ecosystem, normally they don't have to pay for any transactions. So the idea is how the banks, or not necessarily the banks, but the fintechs, imagine the way of life of these SMEs in order to say, okay, you are part of the financial ecosystem. You collect money for us. So you can use the SMEs as the bank branches for cash in, for cash out, for any distribution of new products. And if you take the example of fintech in Europe, which is Participi, where Soprasteria have invest 2 million euros, they provide tools to engage customers via third parties. So I think that we have to rethink the way how SMEs are acting in the economy and the ecosystem, and how the money and the transaction is done between in B2C or B2B. And the final idea is how to simplify, to make it even free. But when we said free, it's not free of charge, but to rethink the business model with the SMEs, I think. And this is today something in Africa. As I said, there is some initiative in order to consider the SME, what they need. They need sometimes loans, okay? So maybe they prefer to pay loans, but they don't want to pay fees for transactions. So you make the transaction free of charge, but you tell them that if they do a lot of transaction, they can have loans. So they will be acting in order to refuse cash and said, okay, no, pay me with your mobile money, because if you pay me with mobile money, I will get rewards. If I get rewards, I can get a loan, etc. So you create a new way of doing the financial services. So this is what we are currently finding in Africa as an approach for the small business banking.
Okay, thanks, Youssef. So we have 2 more questions. I think we might have time to answer both of them if we go a little bit quickly. So the first question is, for mobile money, what technology is leveraged behind the scenes to ensure transactional data is stored securely and accurately?
So initially, as I said, mobile money started with telco companies. And in fact, telco companies, they're using the same infrastructure, the same technology that you use currently to make phone calls, to send SMS. So you can ask the same question to say how you trust today telco companies to store your SMS, store all the data that are going through the telco network. And in fact, what is interesting, initially they started with a technology that is not used at all in Europe, I think, is the USSD. It's very basic. It's only based on text messaging. So now this technology of USSD is still existing, but new channels are now proposed to customers, mobile application. This is the first thing. So it's the same kind of technology that you can find for mobile app for banks, for example, or any financial institutions. We have also today between the mobile app and the SMS, between both of these 2 channels, you have, for example, WhatsApp or instant message, I will say, like WhatsApp, like with Facebook, etc. And today we have some customers that are using what we call WhatsApp banking, meaning that we use the technology of WhatsApp. It's more digital. The user experience is already known by the customer himself. And we use the same approach of the USSD on WhatsApp. This is the kind of example of the technology and how those transactions are so secure. And I saw also another question, which is why the wallet is not considered as mobile money feature. In fact, in order to have a wallet, you need, I think, Michael, correct me, you need a smartphone. So in order to put your card, to do the link between the wallet and your card, etc. So today, initially, the mobile money was considered using only the mobile, not necessarily a smartphone, is not a prerequisite. It can be, I think, in the future, new functionalities to include. But in fact, as I said in the beginning, mobile money is electronic money. So the process is completely different than the one of the wallet.
Sorry about that. There's one other question I think is pretty interesting that I was hoping we could answer. The question is, what about the marketplace's trend to answer customer needs?
Well, smart question, absolutely in the right direction. Well, as a bank, you cannot answer all market needs on your own and client needs. If you want to be more in the lifestyle segment, you need to work on with other people. And this is not only near banks like insurances or mortgage providers or stuff like that. It could be also other things, and that's why I think, marketplaces is something which is coming up. And when you look to initiatives like Fintronic in Spain, mobile app, with a small or a light PSD2 license, those things are really coming up, and they make the business model around affiliation. And this is a marketplace, but it's an offer that banks can give to their clients, which they don't not have. And don't underestimate. A lot of banks have one huge, large asset. They have a large client base, and still sometimes even loyal. Maybe frustrated loyal. I don't know, because maybe it's not better than somewhere else. But they have a large client base. And you can monetize this client base. And of course, marketplaces, how we define it from an end customer perspective, is really offering banking clients different services via APIs, even, together with the KYC, maybe you can identify, you can initiate the payment now with PSD2. It's a one-stop shop. On the other side, of course, a marketplace could be also, like we define it more in technology, that we implement fintechs in standard into the digital platform engagement. That's also something what we can do there, but this is definitely a way, and it's answering the same thing, Yusuf. Sometimes I'm agreeing too often with you. It's an ecosystem. We need to think of ecosystem. We need to think of co-opetition and collaboration. And the market is huge. The market is big. Let's grab it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so maybe it's time for the key takeaways. Go ahead, Yusuf. I think that's what you were going to start on.
Yeah, so just as I said, our approach is to say that we have to move from the bank in the pocket to the money in the pocket, and that's it. So in order to have our money in the pocket, we have to focus more and more about mobile, not necessarily mobile money, but mobile first. How to think about the transactions, how to make it free of charge. And I saw one of the comments about Tanzania during the COVID, the central banks decide to reduce the cost of a lot of fees, particularly mobile money fees. So there is a lot of initiative in order to accelerate this financial inclusion, but generally is to accelerate the way to use money. And as Michael said, the instant payment or the instant approach is very, very important. And when we have our money in the pocket with our mobile, the next stage is sometimes we don't have enough money, so we need loans. And in fact, we have also different ways to get access to loans. We can ask for peer-to-peer loans. We can ask banks. We can have instant loans. So this is also the next stage. After that, after the loans, we will have also other use cases like saving, like investment. But this is, I would think, the next stages. And in fact, I think with the main takeaways is when we said mobile in my pocket, my money in my pocket, in fact, there is this trend with the neobanks that also can provide an answer. And I think your recommendation, Michael, for the neobank is also quite important to hear that as a conclusion.
Absolutely. Keep in mind, you don't need to be a bank to sell banking. That's for sure something. Outline a winning MVP. Go the MVP approach, refine your MVP, check it out, do a continuous inception phase on your own. Co-design the stuff with your tech architecture, look for a good tech provider which is enabling you and pull the hassle away from you or pushes the hassle away from you, and think this business model. That's important. You need to define your business model, and end of the day, you need to be profitable.
So I think we have reached the 1 hour. So
Yes.
I hope that it was quite interesting for the.
Yes, thank you everybody for attending the webinar. And if you have any additional questions, you can always contact us and we'll get you the answers. And there'll also be a replay of the webinar that you'll be able to access via our blogging website. So have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you all. It was a pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you, Maya.